If he accepts this talk with Zelensky, that means that he is actually serious, that he thinks that something has maybe not gone wrong, but that his resources, manpower, finances are being exhausted.
Today, we're diving deep into the recent Trump-Putin summit in Anchorage, Alaska. Joining us is Timothy, a seasoned journalist with the Washington Examiner, who has been following this story closely. Timothy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the big picture. Many remember the Zelenskyy summit in 2018. How did the tone and overall atmosphere of this Alaska meeting compare to that earlier encounter?
Well, this was just a major breakthrough on all accounts, compared to any sort of past diplomatic contact when it comes to particularly this conflict. But it was really just a remarkably cordial meeting between Russian leadership and U.S. leadership. And while the statement that we got right at the end of it left some vagaries, just references to continuing negotiations being necessary, no announcement of a ceasefire just yet. It was rather impressive that Trump got Putin just to sit down at the table, which was something that he had been struggling to do for months.
The banner at the summit declared the goal of pursuing peace, but a reporter asked Putin about killing civilians, and he seemed to ignore the question. What kind of message did this send to the Ukrainian people?
Well, I don't think anyone's under any delusions that Putin is particularly concerned about civilian casualties. Putin has made that abundantly clear, if not in his words, then in his actions. This is summarized best by Trump's repeated frustration, saying that he gets on a call with Putin before this Alaska summit, that he would get on a call with Putin, think that they reached some sort of agreement, think that they at least some sort of mutual understanding that Putin was interested in establishing peace. He'd go home, turn on the TV, and then see that Putin had bombed a hospital. So I don't think anyone was particularly shocked at his, let's say, aversion to commenting on things like this. It's sort of assumed at this point.
President Trump described the meeting as productive, but the details emerging seemed somewhat vague. In your reporting, what would you say were the real key takeaways from the summit? What concrete agreements, if any, were reached?
Well, the summit left a lot of questions on the table. There was a lot of, as we've established, there was a lot of vagueness following the summit. The two leaders did not take any questions from the press. Their statements didn't really outline any details of what peace would look like. But obviously, with the meeting since the European summit at the White House, there has been a little bit more clarity. We still don't have any hard details lined up, but we do know that two of the biggest considerations are the transfer of ownership of land, Russian occupied Ukraine, and future security guarantees for Ukraine after a ceasefire is established. So the first one, obviously, Russia has taken large amounts of the Donbas region. This has been one of their major goals of the conflict. And there was a time earlier in the war that Ukraine never would have even paid any attention to demands for them to give this territory up. The war has been very asymmetrical in terms of capabilities, and Russia has taken a lot of ground. Even as Ukrainians fight as hard as they can, the manpower, the economic power, the technological output just seems to kind of steamroll over Ukraine at various points. So they've taken most of Donbass. There are still parts that have not been occupied by Russia, and that's the very, very controversial point, which is Putin would like Zelensky to turn over all of Donbass, which includes areas that are not currently occupied by Russia. That's a really big ask, but it seems as though Zelensky is at least entertaining the possibility of such a situation because he hasn't walked away from negotiations with that being sort of an understood expectation. The second point, security guarantees. There's been a lot of discussion about who exactly would protect Ukraine in the situation in a situation where peace is established and the war comes to an end. Trump seems to be deferring that to Europeans and having Europeans sort of sort out the gritty details of it. Trump hasn't committed to any sort of U.S. troops on Ukrainian soil. And while it hasn't necessarily been completely ruled out that the U.S. would take over control of the security guarantee, it seems like the White House wants to put that responsibility on Europe. That would include purchasing weapons from the United States and giving them over to Ukraine. That would involve personnel on the ground. And the amount of personnel on the ground could vary depending on whatever the security guarantee is decided upon. That could be just a couple hundred, a bare bones skeleton crew, group of peacekeepers that are there more to alert the world to something that Russia could be doing, or tens of thousands of troops, which would be there for actual proactive defensive purposes. Again, these are all just hypotheticals. Nothing has actually been decided upon.
President Zelensky was later hosted at the White House along with several European leaders. How do you assess Zelensky's position in all of this? Is he being pressured to make concessions? And what are the potential implications for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity?
Well, Zelensky's obviously being pressured. I mean, he's being pressured by Putin and by his own allies that want to see peace happen. And everyone has acknowledged that peace is going to take some kind of negotiation. Everyone's going to have to lose something. Everyone's going to have to give up something. So Zelensky's facing the most pressure in the world right now, save for other war zones. So yes, he's feeling a lot of pressure. Trump, it seems, is taking a much lighter hand now. Zelensky seems to have learned how to talk to Trump, especially compared to his first meeting in the White House. Zelensky seems a little more, I don't want to say relaxed because he doesn't seem relaxed, but he seems a little more confident or at least calculated in what he's doing, how he's talking to Trump. He's very complimentary. He talks past the deal, sort of a Trumpian way of talking. He very much defers to Trump as the authority, and he just seems to be taking his cues from the White House quite seriously and actually acting upon them. So it's not that Zelensky is not in control insofar as he is the head of state. He is the one that has the authority to make decisions on behalf of Ukraine. But with the war going on for this long, with Ukrainian losses as high as they are, as well as Russian losses, but with Ukrainian losses high as they are, and with the cost of continuing the war with both lives and financially just increasing and increasing to the point that it's becoming a threat to the future of the nation, he is being pressured by the situation, and what he ultimately decides it will ultimately be the law of the land. But I just don't see a world where he can walk away from negotiations thinking that he's gonna get a better deal down the road.
Trump has announced a potential meeting between Putin and Zelensky, followed by a trilateral discussion. Based on your reporting and understanding of the situation, how likely is this meeting to actually happen, and what are the realistic prospects for a lasting peace deal?
So getting Putin in the same room as Zelensky is it would have been unthinkable just a couple months ago, just a couple weeks ago, it would have been unthinkable. Putin has repeatedly said that Zelensky is an illegitimate leader from a fake country, that he has no interest in talking with him, that there's not going to be any negotiations with him. And so Putin even agreeing to this meeting is a major step forward. Whether or not he shows up will remain to be seen. Putin has dodged meetings before, he's reneged on offers before. So there's every possibility that Putin, come time for the meeting, which is supposed to take place within 2 weeks, that's what the Chancellor of Germany said. When the time comes, does Putin show up? If Putin shows up, that seems to signal that we are very much in a sincere negotiation for peace. And it would seem to show that Russia is becoming fatigued of this war in a way that it thinks it needs to stop it for its own sake. Putin would love to continue this war, ideally, for as long as he can, barring sanctions and other economic penalties. He's very comfortable with the loss of Russian life because he is making major territorial gains, and it's placing him in a position of increasing power in the region. But if he accepts this talk with Zelensky, that means that he is actually serious, that he thinks that something has maybe not gone wrong, but that his resources, manpower, finances are being exhausted. So if that takes place, it seems that Russia would be on board for the expedited peace process that Trump is pushing. And if this one took 2 weeks to put together, which is what the time frame is supposed to be, then I would imagine that a trilateral talk would be somewhere in that area.
We often see these high-level meetings through the lens of official statements and carefully crafted narratives. From your perspective on the ground, what are some of the less visible but equally important factors that are shaping the outcome of these negotiations?
Well, I think speed. I just referenced the speed of the negotiations, and I think that has a major part in this. Trump for months complained about Putin dodging, about Putin getting on calls and then not following through with what he says that he wants to do, not making good on his promises that he really is sincerely looking for peace, dodging him at various summits. So the speed here, it seems as though Trump saw the Alaska summit as a very serious moment where he can get some form of written if you want to call it statement or position from the Russian side. What does Russia need to establish peace? And he immediately has been acting upon that. The European leaders were over to the White House within 48 hours, and now we're talking 2 weeks to the bilateral meeting, the bilateral meeting that just has not been able to happen before. And we would imagine that the trilateral meeting would be not long after that. So speed seems to be a major factor here. Trump wants to keep Putin moving, wants to keep Putin held to his word day to day. In the past, Putin has allowed time to elapse between meetings. That then provides the cover that, oh, the situation has changed somewhat, or there's new considerations, and no, this is very much Trump calling Putin, it seems, day to day, just checking in and reasserting that the deal is still on the table. So it seems like it's just a maximum pressure, maximum speed campaign, and I think that has made all the difference.
So what should viewers be watching for in the coming weeks as this situation develops?
As I said, if Putin actually sits down with Zelensky, that feels like a moment that a cynical Putin that's trying to mislead the West wouldn't do, because it's in a certain sense a capitulation. Sitting down with Zelensky, recognizing this man that you have called illegitimate, that you have said his country is fake, that it properly belongs to Russia. Sitting down with that man peer to peer and talking is a major concession of itself. You're basically betraying your own characterization of the conflict and giving him a dignity that you would not want to give him. So if he does sit down and we get a face-to-face meeting of the two, that to me is crossing the Rubicon, or at least it feels that way. Never underestimate Putin. I'm not saying the deal isn't done until the deal is done. Let me be clear. But that is a moment where Putin is sort of taking a hit by just doing it. So it would be very strange for him to go that far and then pull back as some sort of cynical ploy to mislead the world. So that is the moment to me. I think everyone should be looking for, take it very, very seriously when those two are actually at the same table, and imagine from that point forward that Putin might just be negotiating in good faith.
Timothy, thank you for sharing your insights with us today. It's clear that there are many layers to this story, and your reporting helps us understand the complexities involved. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for watching Deep Dive. Please visit our website for more of these investigations, and feel free to send us your questions or story ideas. We hope to see you back here next week.